Hi everyone, Alex Goff here with the top 5 college matchups that are turning my head this weekend of September 16, 17, and 18. Number 5 is Westchester at St. Joseph's. So the Mid-Atlantic Rugby Conference Men's Division I AA starts off this weekend. It's typically a very competitive conference. So for me, as somebody who ranks these teams and wants to keep an eye on who's really shooting for the top, it's an interesting one because St. Joseph's has a long history, very good, very tough team. Westchester made the final of NCR's D1 AA postseason last fall. So are they able to build on that and build on that momentum and continue to play at the high level? I think St. Joseph's is an excellent test for them to start with for the Rams, and we don't know who's going to come out of that is, I think, going to be a conference frontrunner. Number 4 is Friday night, so we're recording this on Friday, so hopefully get this finished in time for the game. Queens at Army, so both of these teams won over the weekend, and it's one of those things where, what do you read into the victories? And last weekend, Queens had beaten Penn State 27-10. It's a result a lot of people are talking about. And newly into the Rugby East, now the expanded Rugby East is a great result for Queens. Army had beaten Kutztown. That's their first 15s game coming out of winning D1A's national championship, and they're able to back themselves and come out pretty strong. Well, they were, for the most part. As I had mentioned a few times, this was 5 tries and no conversions. So it could have been, potentially 33-17. You look at that and say, wow, that's a pretty good win. 25-17 is like only by 8 points. What's going on? It's really down to goal kicking. If they can straighten that out, Army's in good shape. But Queens is going to be a very stern test at West Point. Really want to see this one. Number 3, well, we're back at Queen's University. So Queen's University women. So in this case, this is a NYRA team, a program working into the NYRA community, going against a D1 elite team at Queens at Penn State. We don't get a lot of these crossovers. Very interested to see how this works out. The idea that Penn State, it's interesting with Penn State because, first of all, as reported on Golf Rugby Report, the number 1 college to provide players for the Women's World Cup squad that was just announced is Penn State by a wide margin, like 7 players. No one else had more than 3. So that's interesting, and yet Penn State has struggled in D1 Elite the last couple of years. So is that simply a case of the pool of players that you can recruit from has not really grown while the pool of teams that really want to recruit has grown? Has that been in trouble? Is it that, or is it a different style of coaching, or is it just something else? We don't know. I'm not going to speculate, really. There could be any number of reasons behind that. But Queen's University is certainly an up-and-coming program. And so let's see how a team that's in D1 Elite, but not at the top of D1 Elite, plays against a team that's in NYRA, but not at the top of NYRA. It tells me a lot. Number 2, also a women's game, and kind of a parallel in a way with the previous one I talked about, Navy at AIC. So AIC is the defending NYRA Division II champions, and a team that returns a lot of those players. AIC a little bit miffed. It's a soft term for how they were feeling. Went to the end-of-year sports banquet last year. Were not recognized as a quote-unquote national champion, which I think they should be. Recognized as that, and that was something that not only bothered the players on the AIC women's rugby team, bothered players on other sports teams there. They had supported the AIC rugby team a great deal. So you've got a team going in with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. At the same time, you have Navy coming into a whole sort of new world in that they were a club program, a very, very good club program, but now going into the varsity world and entering full into NYRA next year. So Navy goes in, talented, hardworking, very good club, but new into the varsity world. AIC, a varsity program, a NYRA program, champion, but in Division II. So how do they match up? This would be a great test on really how big a jump it is to go from club to varsity. And maybe it's not a big jump at all, because Navy is very good. One. And number one, well, I'm going to be there, and so maybe that's part of why I'm excited with Indiana at Davenport. Now, this is another juxtaposition between two different kinds of teams. So Davenport, you could call them a varsity team. They're technically not, right? They're under non-varsity sports at Davenport, but school-supported program. Then you've got Indiana, which is a club team, for sure, but they're well-funded. Alumni fund them pretty well, and they've just hired their first full-time head coach in Luke Gross. So a club team that has some backing, right? And then you've got a school-supported team that is technically not varsity, but as good as. Both D1A. They've played each other before. It's kind of a habit that they do that early in the fall, and it's often a close game, and often a game that, frankly, messes up my rankings. So I go back and look at that and say, well, how do I fix or justify a ranking based on the fact that that result happened earlier, and I wish I could throw that one out. But, hey, that's why they pay me the big bucks. And I'm excited about it because Indiana's a really entertaining team to watch and high scoring, and Davenport started very well, and they're a tough, hard-nosed team, very skilled as well. And I've never been to see Davenport play at Davenport, so looking forward to that. I will be there. And if you see me wandering around, especially if you see me wandering around looking confused, but even if I look like I know what I'm doing, why don't you come over and say hi?